Good. Now it is recording. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to our webinar, Circular Economy in Everyday Life, Solutions to Reduce, Repair, and Share. My name is Jacqueline van Tonder. I'm the project coordinator for Meadowtech Alley, a marketing strategy for the Lower Columbia Initiatives Corporation situated in Trail, BC, Canada. We have Tech Metals Trail operations in our community, one of the world's largest fully integrated zinc and lead smelting and refining complexes. We also have two large recycling facilities, KC Recycling and Retrieve Technologies. They recycle batteries, car batteries, lithium-ion batteries, and all kinds of stuff. The lead and the acid that comes from the recycling process goes back to Tech to process in the smelter. What starts as a linear economy then closes the loop into a circular economy. And that's just one example of what we do here. And it's on an industrial scale. Because of that, we are hosting the first ever Industrial Circular Economy Conference this year in Trail from June 8 to 10, which is a hybrid event. So you can either be here in person or you can be here online, and we hope to see you there. Today's webinar, we're going to focus on circular economy in everyday life. With us, we have Rosemary Cooper. Thank you, Rosemary, for doing this today. For over 20 years, Rosemary's been a sustainable planner, catalyst, and educator with a passion for bridging the gap between ideas and solutions. Since 2013, she's been catalyzing the transition to a circular economy with a focus on upstream innovation that design out waste and foster lasting prosperity. Rosemary is the project director of the Share, Reuse, Repair initiative, which she's going to tell us about today, that brings community, business, and government together to identify and advance cultural, policy, and market shifts that foster a vibrant culture and economy of sharing, reuse, and repair. She also teaches the circular economy at BCIT School of Business and provides consulting and strategic advice to advance inner loop circular innovations, such as transitioning to reusables, amplifying repair, and enhancing second-hand economy models. Rosemary began her career working on sustainability policy and business development for Metro Vancouver, and previously based out of New York, managing a program recognized by the American Planning Association for its outstanding results, helping smaller communities share more sustainable futures. Her master's degree at York University explored the integration of economic development and sustainable community planning. Welcome, Rosemary, and thank you for joining us today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over the stage to you, and you will tell us what you do and why it's important. If anybody's got a question, please put a question in the question and answer box, and then we will give Rosemary time to answer those questions at the end of the presentation. So thank you, Rosemary. I'm going to switch off my video now so that you do not have to look at my face all the time, but then you can see everything Rosemary wants to show you.
All right. Thanks so much. That was an interesting journey to remember the various things I've done in my career. So yeah, what I'm going to talk about today is circular economy in daily life and how we can move that from niche to mainstream. But in doing so, how we can also then create the demand for the circular economy that we all want to see thrive and grow. So I'm not going to repeat this because Jacqueline did a great job on saying what our mission is, the Share, Reuse, Repair initiative. But what we like to say is that what we're often sort of unique in our focus is that we focus on both the supply and the demand side. You know, we want to and we need to see a greater supply of circular goods and services, but we also want to cultivate both cultural and consumer demand for those services. And today, a lot of what I'm going to talk about is on the demand side, if you like, of the circular economy. So the Share, Reuse, Repair initiative is actually a project of Makeway's shared platform. Makeway was previously Tides Canada. So while we focus in British Columbia, we have the capacity and the mandate also to work across Canada. And our steering committee includes the organizations at the base there with the logos listed there, the Vancouver Economic Commission, Recycling Council of BC, Van City Credit Union, Recycling Alternative. And we're really pleased to have Van City Credit Union as a strategic partner and funder. And they do this because sharing, reuse, and repair really align with their commitment to support projects innovation that allow all of us to live lighter within Earth's ecological boundaries. I'm not going to talk much about it today, but right now we have a new program called the Just Circular Recovery, which is really our kind of, a second sort of significant focus of ours. And the purpose of that is to really make sure that we harness the untapped potential of the circular economy to create inclusive local jobs, and also to ensure that the circular economy is affordable and accessible to all. So yeah, and so we're doing a lot in that area as well, which I do think is relevant, both to smaller communities and to large metropolitan regions. So Share, Reuse, Repair initiative has actually become part of a global hub together with initiated by Sitra. And Sitra is a Finnish circular innovation fund that was the host for the 2019 World Circular Economy Forum. And what this means is that we're part of a group with a few other folks to test and adapt market insight and behavior change tools that were first developed by Sitra, and to adapt those to British Columbia and Canada. And these are the three sort of studies and tools that we are working on adapting. We did this because we see this really strong alignment around the focus that both Share, Reuse, Repair Initiative and Sitra are working on the supply and the demand side of the circular economy. And other countries that are involved are Slovenia, Turkey, Greece, Portugal, Italy, Estonia, and Germany. And in collaboration with another organization called One Earth, however, One Earth is a Vancouver-based nonprofit mainstreaming sustainable ways of living. Here and around the world, we're actually the first to undertake the adaptation of the first two studies that you see there, motivations for smarter consumption and the shift framework. So the first study that I'm going to talk to you about is around the motivations that we have for consumption, and in particular, our interest is around circular behaviors. And what Sitra did is they identified 4 years ago that there are 7 different motivation profiles for Finnish people that show the dominant motivations that guide their consumption behaviors. And interestingly, and probably not a surprise to many, they showed that most people are actually, in fact, motivated by things other than saving the planet. Health, saving money, being cool, feeling good, bringing joy to themselves and their family. And what's been great about these profiles and what's attracted us to want to adapt them is that the profiles, together with some of the other resources and tools that Sitra have actually helped increase the number of Finns practicing sustainable behaviors in their daily lives from 29 to 50%, which is really significant. So we are in the process of adapting these for British Columbia. As I said, One Earth is really kind of leading on this, and we are involved in collaborating because we very much are interested in the circular behaviors that are linked to this study. I'm not going to go into the details, but what I just want to emphasize here is that it's a very robust and reliable approach that's combining qualitative and quantitative approaches with very statistically significant approach. And, and really the goal of these motivation profiles and these new insights is to really deepen and refine our approach to how we encourage sustainable behavior changes. So what's really interesting about this is a little bit of a sneak peek into what's going on here as we're actively doing this, is that what we've seen is that we have 7 motivational profiles for British Columbia. 7 was also the number in Finland, but they are definitely have some differences. But overall, these motivational profiles show that there are new opportunities to encourage people to engage in sustainable and circular behaviors beyond the green niche. And the green niche is those that are already practicing, circular behaviors like sharing, reuse, and repair in their daily lives. And you can see here there's a horizontal axis that gravitates between being conscious and purposeful about your sustainable behaviors and being unconscious. And it potentially, you're either not practicing it because you don't want to, or you are, but it's a byproduct of another motivation. And the big point here is that 34% of people are conscious about sustainable lifestyles, but 66%, the majority, are not. And these are kind of the folks that we want to reach and tap into. I just want to emphasize here, if you want to know, the gray circles are just areas where the data is still coming in. So you guys are really some of the first to see this. So I'm going to share with you a sample of some of the motivations, the top 4 motivations, to give a sense of what this might mean. So this first one, and I just want to say that the names are not defined or confirmed or finalized at this point. So just to keep that in mind. The first motivation is a group that's being roughly called waste not, want not motivation. It's 22% of the British Columbia population. And this is a group of people that are motivated by using and owning only what they need. And they are actually reducing waste in all aspects of their life, but they're actually doing it for very practical reasons rather than environmental or green reasons. And I want to share with you an example of an individual that was interviewed in the qualitative interviews, and you can hear for yourselves an example of somebody who is dominantly motivated by the waste not, want not motivation.
The scene like my parents who buying things like, okay, this is good quality, this is bad quality. And back home in India, if anything goes bad, they don't just throw it. They repair themselves or they call somebody to repair. So I got that thing from there, and still I do the same thing. If something like furniture or something, then I try to fix myself. I have bought all the tools rather than spending money on the new furniture. I rather fix the old one and make it last longer. So
of course, what we like to hear there is somebody who's motivated to repair. But I think the important thing is that those actions, those motivations to repair or other sustainable behaviors are actually a byproduct of a minimalist sort of practical approach. And driven by, motivated by price, sales, and discounts, and what's practical. And what's important about this for innovators who are circular innovators who have various repair-based products or services, is that you actually want to appeal to these guys with facts that relate to their motivations and not emotions. And interestingly enough, probably not talk much, if at all, about the green or environmental benefits of repair. So that's one example. In contrast, this is another motivation that we're sort of penning as the shop and style motivation. It's 20% of the BC population, so another really significant chunk. And this group of folks are really quite strongly motivated and interested in buying new things. They like shopping. They like that shopping can be convenient and easy and online. And if it looks good and it makes me feel good, then I can't help but buy it. And here's an example of somebody who has that motivation talking about themselves and
I mean, yeah, I like it because of the convenience, and you can really spend some time doing research, especially if I'm making a one-off purchase, maybe like an item for my home or a toy or whatever. I like to research it and make sure that I'm getting, something that'll be reliable and meet my needs and that I'll get use out of. And it's much easier to do that online, you know, checking reviews or multiple prices or multiple stores with info to really get that. And especially if you can get it shipped to your door for free.
Yeah, so I think we're really kind of hearing somebody here that probably really enjoys using Amazon and buying things, and that's a big part of their motivation. So what we found in this group is that the behaviors or actions of this group are largely not aligned with lighter living and with circular behaviors, you know, buying for pleasure, getting inspiration, however, from social media and from others, and really valuing convenience. And this group, you know, really kind of needs to be reached through kind of emotion and pleasure kind of messaging that reaches their motivations as opposed to kind of facts. It's probably not a good audience, not a good group to reach out to if you want to encourage them to repair rather than purchase something new. But there are circular innovations that could tap into their motivations. So for example, something like Poshmark, where you can get trendy kind of secondhand clothing, and you can do it easily by getting online, and you can get it delivered to your door as you would, you know, through Amazon. So it's interesting to think about how you might, what are the circular innovations that you might employ to reach this percentage of, you know, people motivated by this, and the ones where you may not want to put the effort in to reach them. Another one is called Eco Trends Motivations. This is a group of people that align themselves with positive trends, whether they're economic, social, local. And the important thing is to know that they're not starting or leading those trends, though. So they're following trends. And it's 20% of the British Columbia population. They are focused on reducing their environmental impact by buying more consciously and buying less when it is the trend to do so. So I'm going to share with you another example of somebody for whom this is their dominant motivation.
I started buying secondhand after I came to Canada, for sure. Because one, that's just the style here, and like what people kind of are into, and it's really good. And two, it's very available. It's very accessible. Like there is secondhand in Sweden, but small town Sweden does not have awesome secondhand shops where you can get what you want, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, as again, you know, recognizing that buying secondhand is a trend here in British Columbia, and then choosing to follow that trend. What we found is that they do have actions that include sort of lighter living, circular behaviors, but most of them are sort of more related to conscious consumption. And to choosing those behaviors when they become culturally acceptable, you know, when they are a trend. And that messaging that you use to reach out to them needs to be kind of emotional messaging that's showing that this behavior is part of a cultural trend, and therefore they may want to follow it. And lastly, this is kind of quite a green motivation category. Healthy life and planet, 14% of the British Columbia population. I think we would expect British Columbia to have some green motivated people. But what's different about this from the motivations that they did in Finland is that it's actually highly linked to health. These folks are interested in doing what's best for both health and wellness and for the planet. And distinct from the previous group, the folks in this group are actually advocates and activists, encouraging other people and folks in their community to adopt these behaviors. So they're really more in the leadership category. And here's an example of someone who falls into this motivation group.
Recently, as I've talked to my investment advisor and got them to decarbonize my entire portfolio.
So that's showing quite a strong commitment to sustainability, and we saw those also for share, reuse, and repair behaviors. Particularly a motivation and an interest to repair before buying new, purchasing things secondhand. What's interesting about the folks in this group is that they are consciously aligning their consumption behavior with lighter and circular behaviors, and they're really checking the products. They're really digging in to understand the materials and understand whether they are ecologically sustainable, and also whether they are harmful or helpful for their health. So this group really can handle being messaged. They want to know the details. They want to know the facts. And so that's really important in terms of how they reach them. So that's where we are, a bit of a sneak peek into what are called lighter living profiles. Those profiles are going to become public in May and June of 2021. It's also going to have an activation toolkit. How can you as a business, how can you as a government entity, how can you activate these results to support your efforts in circular innovation and sustainable living. But the first there's kind of two early activations here. We're actually activating these through the adaptation of a second tool that was developed first in Finland called Shift. And I'm actually just out of a 2.5-hour workshop, second workshop for this Shifting Consumer Behavior program. But the other interesting thing is that Vancity Credit Union, who is a core partner and funder in this particular project, is actually starting the process of quantifying the profiles for their own members. And in order to sort of compare how do their members, the motivations and the percentages compare to the British Columbia population, and what might that mean both for their marketing and messaging, but how they may also want to shift their product and service offerings in order to meet the motivations of their members and actually grow their membership. So it's a very practical application to the lighter living profiles. Jacomen, I think I was going to take a moment to pause if people had questions before I talk about the Shift framework. Is that correct?
I have 2 questions here that we should maybe answer at this point before we go on to the Shift
Tremendous.
project. So it looks like in Finland they're quite advanced in this program. So are we in Canada that far behind?
I don't think we're as far ahead as Finland, but we are quickly catching up and seeing lots of momentum and interest both around the circular economy and also around the demand side of the circular economy. So yeah, and we do often look over to Europe and say, how do we get there? Yeah, and that's okay.
Another question that I have is, so we're not maybe very objective about British Columbia because we live here and we like living here, and I feel it's a very nice place to live and it's green and we have everything to do outside. But how does British Columbia compare to the rest of Canada? Is British Columbia ahead of the rest or not?
That is an excellent question. And the answer is that we don't know at this moment in time because we're only starting to kind of do these motivation profiles here and quantify it here. I think it would be tremendous to sort of prove the value of this approach in British Columbia and scale it across the country so we can begin to say, what does it look like in other provinces? How does it differ? And what does it mean in terms of using those motivation profiles to scale circular innovation? It would also be great to see a kind of a collective number for the entire country as well. So great question, and I think we should do that.
So you said the profiles will be public in May or June.
Yep.
Rosemary is one of the keynote speakers at our ICE conference in June, 8 to 10. So if you have questions about those public profiles, you will be able to find her at the conference. We are going to put all her contact details at the end of the webinar, but she's going to be here and she's going to have an interesting job apart from being a keynote speaker. So we are getting some students from the local college and they are taking garbage and they need to make something useful out of it. And Rosemary will be our judge for that. And then we will have some prizes for them. So I'm really interested to see what these students are going to come up with. Okay, so Rosemary, let's talk about the Shift project now.
Okay, great. Happy to do so. And excited to be at your conference virtually in June, where we'll certainly have some more results to share out. So the second tool that we are adapting to British Columbia is called Shift. And Shift stands actually for 5 different factors that have been proven to shift people's behavior in more eco-conscious directions. And the reason why we were interested in this tool is what we've learned from talking to a lot of our circular innovators here is that one of the key barriers is their ability to develop quite refined messaging in order to shift people's behaviors, consumption behaviors in really new directions. And when you're asking people to lease or rent or participate in a good sharing platform rather than own, that's quite a new behavior. Or to purchase secondhand or to buy goods that are made with, that are upcycled by using waste in some manner as a resource, or to repair something rather than dispose of it. So those are quite new behaviors, and we really need to kind of get quite refined about our marketing messaging and materials and approach. And one of the key reasons is that even when you have those groups in that conscious portion of the lighter living profiles who are motivated to be more circular in their daily life, can still fall short of their good intentions because there's a bit of this stubborn kind of attitude and behavior gap that needs to be overcome. So what we decided to do in the fall of 2019 is we had a mini 2.5-hour workshop with the developer of the Shift framework that happens to be Dr. Kate Sauter, who's a professor at UBC Sauter School of Business, and about 25 circular innovators from the private social enterprise and public sector here. And what we unanimously heard is that 2.5 hours is not going to cut it. We want something longer, structured, and more supported so that we can methodically go through the steps to apply the Shift framework. And really so that they can address those kind of psychological, social, emotional, and behavior change needs of their target markets. And for the businesses, the purpose is straightforward. We want to do that because we want to increase sales and we want to enhance our market share. And for the public and nonprofit organizations that are part of the SHIFT program, it's so that they can improve their behavior change program goals. At Share Reuse Repair Initiative, we are certainly in favor of working with the private sector, but we also see that cultural change more broadly needs us to also engage with the public sector and nonprofit. So this is the team that we've put together. We're really pleased to be able to do this with Dr. Kate White, who developed the SHIFT framework, commissioned by Citra to develop it for them. We have Citra, we have Marcus, and Sari, you have to roll your R's if you're from Finland, who are on board with this as well. We also have Lindsay Boyle with Circular Citizen, who's got 20+ years of experience in brand management, product innovation, marketing, and qualitative research. And also One Earth, who's sort of the lead on the lighter living profiles that they just talked about, because we're actually bringing those profiles into this SHIFT project. This is what this project does in brief. We have 10 innovators, and I'll share with you who they are. Businesses, city government, and 2 nonprofits, and they're going through the steps to apply the SHIFT framework. First of all, they did learn about the lighter living motivation profiles, and they used those to really identify and refine their target markets that they want to reach and get really clear on the behavior change that they want to see in that specific target market. And then what they're going to go through is design an A/B test. That means test 2 different kind of marketing messages that are based on a combination of the shift factors alone or in combination that they're going to test out to see if it supports their desired behavior change, and throughout receive guidance and support from the project team. So what you can see in the bottom of this slide is what those 5 shift factors are. One of them is social influence. I mean, we're often, particularly in circular sustainable behavior, we're influenced by what other people are thinking and or doing. And we actually, the workshop this morning focused on the first 2 factors, S and H. Social desirability, social group membership, making it visible. These are some of the tools and approaches that can be really refined quite significantly in terms of the approach that you take to your marketing messaging and outreach. Another one was habit formation. We're asking people to not only change their consumption behaviors in new directions, but to make that a habit, to make that become the automatic thing that they do. And interestingly, I learned this morning, it actually takes 66 days to make something a habit rather than 21 days, which is so, it takes longer than we think. Really the type of approach that you focus on to habit formation can really kind of make or break whether you can increase your sales and or advance your behavior change goals. We saw some examples this morning, for example, that, saw differences between 24%, 47%, and 62%. Based on using different approaches to habit formation. So it can be really significant. And the other ones there are appealing to yourself individually, appealing to feelings and emotions. And the last one is around tangibility. I mean, often what we're trying to do in circular and sustainable feels like the benefits are really far out. And so how can we make those benefits more tangible and therefore motivational? So these are the 10 circular innovators, just to get you a flavor of who's decided that they need to come in and participate in this program. Sustainable is focused on featuring upcycled barley flour from the spent grain from microbreweries. And what they really want to do is get busy mums. I think they might have actually refined their target market. It was thrifty grandmothers or funky grandmothers to buy the baking mixes that they sell and their products that feature the upcycled barley flour. Tradle is a business focused on a baby clothing subscription service, and they want to see uptake of that. So subscribe to get your baby clothes and return them when you're done and you need the next size rather than owning them. Fulfill Shop is focused on increasing uptake of zero waste grocery and household products in reusable containers, but particularly in a suburban setting that don't have access to some of the sort of refill and reuse stores that are available more kind of in the urban core, or at least that's where they are so far. Urban Repurpose is focused on increasing awareness and sales of materials and goods that are harvested from buildings that were demolished, deconstructed, or renovated. Modo is interested in seeing increased uptake of car sharing, really trying to see what they can do to move it more from the niche to the mainstream. Perk is a business that upcycles coffee shop waste, cups and roasting shaft into stuffing for pillows and stuffed animals, for example. Revivify is a fairly new startup that's focused on increasing sales of folks that buy their repaired and restored furniture rather than purchasing new furniture. And then we do have 2 nonprofits, Threading Change which is encouraging people to buy more circular and ethical clothing. Zero Waste Washington really want to improve their behavior change goals around motivating citizens to repair goods. And finally, and interestingly, we're kind of going down Cascadia. We actually have the Portland Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, long a leader in behavior change programs around thoughtful consumption. And they're particularly interested in behavior change linked to enhancing reuse and repair, which we're thrilled about. And that they often do through a very visible web platform that supports innovators in this space from a variety of sectors. So I hope that kind of gives you a flavor of who's motivated into this. And to participate in this program, and we'll find value in it. But one of the things that's important that we've done is we're trying to link these tools together. And one of the really important things in any type of marketing that's focused on shifting people's consumption behaviors is to really have a bullseye target, to know who your target is. And that's where these lighter living motivations are helpful in business. In particular, I mean, for the other sectors too, is really knowing how to prioritize your target audiences, knowing who they are, what their needs and motivations are, and who you should target in order to grow sales or behavior change goals, how you might want to modify your marketing messaging to reach them, and how, in fact, which may be a byproduct, although not so much of a focus of this program, is do you need to change the nature of your innovation in order to reach your target markets and scale your efforts? So what we did a little bit was take some of the top 4 motivations from the lighter living profiles and kind of put them on an axis here that's thinking about whether the messaging should be around emotion, pleasure, facts, benefit to the planet, benefit to individual self, that shows kind of a bit of a linkage with those 5 shift factors. And the participants in the program then used these in combination to really kind of identify and refine their target markets, which is really important. Now, what I didn't say, and this is just an example of what A/B testing means, is that these shift factors have actually been used to encourage more sort of recycling behaviors in this so far, but not circular behaviors, which is why we really wanted to do it. And so here's an example with the city of Calgary where they had tested out 2 different messaging. One was messaging linked to motivations in the I factor, which is individual self. And this was another one, the community one is linked to the social influence factor. And they really got quite refined in terms of testing and therefore changing their messaging and their marketing materials to see a significant percentage increase in behavior change. So here's the next steps. Again, you're getting early results, a sneak peek of what we're doing here. So what we're going to be doing is doing a public webinar conveniently in June. To share results and lessons learned and to really say, okay, when we take a look at each of those 10 innovators who really represent a cross section of innovators across textiles and food and transportation and consumer goods and different types of circular business models, what do we learn from them? And what might it mean for trends to the share, reuse, repair and kind of circular sector more generally? We've got quite a demand and interest. Unfortunately, we could only take 10 folks, so we did have to turn some people away. We really wanted to have a high touch approach in terms of support we provide. So we're planning to do round 2. It'll probably be in 2022. But we're also exploring activation on an individual level if folks are interested individually for businesses or government entities who may want to explore how the shift framework can be used in support of their sales goals or behavior change program goals. Yeah,
So
interested
what
in
you're saying
questions.
is, Rosemary, there's still a lot of work in order to get people to change their behaviors and to educate people.
Yeah, and that if we really want to move people's behaviors in fundamentally new directions in a way that does go from niche to mainstream, we're going to have to get quite, refined and sophisticated in the marketing messaging, just as many marketing and advertising agencies have done. And to provide that opportunity for, in particular, for a lot of, startups and SMEs, which are really what are quite dominant here in British Columbia versus kind of large corporate entities who may have the funds to do this themselves.
So at the end of the day, you're also going to teach them you can still make money.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole idea for the businesses who participate in this is to increase their sales.
Sales, yes.
Yeah.
You can do the right
Increase their
thing,
sales.
change the behavior, and still make your money or even more.
Yeah, increase their sales and enhance your market share so that you can get more people doing this behavior and so that your circular business is ultimately successful. Because we have seen, unfortunately, there's a lot of startups in this space, right? And there can be, like any new and even circular innovations done by established businesses, we can see a fairly significant failure rate for innovation generally. So we want to kind of provide the best possible resources that we have to increase the chance of business success.
So I have a question here. That slide that you had there from the city of Calgary with the grass clippings.
Yeah.
Did the I factor or the community factor won? Which one did the best?
Yeah. So what's interesting is it depends what the community messaging reached people for whom social norming was their concern. So there was a concern that their neighbors weren't doing it. There was a concern that their yard might look disheveled if they did the grass cycling. Whereas the individual messaging actually reached when they were trying to promote a message around individual benefits. So it ended up being a blend, which was interesting. And that's what's tricky about these shift factors. It really can be kind of a combination of things. And we're encouraging our program participants to start with one target market, one desired behavior change, learn this approach, test it out, learn how to do it, and then to take a next step and apply it to a different behavior change in different target market.
So Rosemary, if I'm a business owner or a new startup and I feel I could really help, who I can really do with the help of the SHIFT program, what do I do? How do I get involved?
Yeah, I mean, I think my last slide has contact information. Reach out, let us know that you're interested, and then well, first of all, you can come to the webinar in June, right? Listen in on that webinar where you really get to hear from a variety of other innovators how they've applied the tool and think about, is this something that I need at this part of my startup or circular journey, if you like. And then if you think it is, or even before then, send an email to me, and that'll help us gauge the demand for doing the SHIFT program again and when.
Do you know when in June is the webinar?
No, it hasn't been.
Okay.
We haven't decided on the exact date yet.
But I'm sure we'll all see it on social media and we can share it from the Middletech Alley platform as well.
Yeah, that would be tremendous. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can it'll be up on our website as well. So all of those contact details are going to be on my last slide.
Do you have anything else that you can tell us that we don't know?
Sure. I mean, I have one other tool. It's a very early stage of development, but I do think it's a really exciting one, so that BC and Canada can catch up, if you like, on circular innovation and be very strategic and forward looking. So I'll talk about that briefly.
Tell us, yes.
Okay. So So the last tool and this is actually, frankly, one of my favorite ones, is actually a project done in Finland. They called it the Stuff in Flux Project. And they did this project because they really want to understand what's in the hearts and minds of early adopter or front-running youth, age 19 to 35, that are really shaping new market spaces that are really quite fundamentally circular in nature. Which I think is really exciting. And in my conversations with Citra, I said, okay, why is this important? You know, why should we do this here in British Columbia and Canada? And what they said is if businesses don't know what's in the hearts and minds of these front-running market-shaping youth, they are missing out on strategic new innovation opportunities, and they will be left behind. So I'm really excited about this one. And as you can see here, their work there revealed 4 new kind of interconnected market opportunity spaces: flexible stuff, perfect stuff, pleasurable engagement, familiar stuff. And these insights have been used to drive circular innovation globally. So for example, IKEA International participated in this first study and decided as a result of this that they needed to explore furniture rental, repair, and sell back programs if they wanted to meet the needs of these influential, Gen Zs and millennials that are really have got some quite kind of post-materialistic new consumption and complex consumption behaviors. So I'm just going to share one of these market spaces with you. It's called Flexible Stuff. What's interesting about this one is the highest percent of youth frontrunners, relate to this market space or fit in this market space. And what I want to emphasize is that not all youth are frontrunners. These are the front runners, amongst youth. These are the influencers. These are the ones that, I think about with my kids. How on earth does that child, I'm thinking children here, but it's applied to youth here, be the first one to come to school with the fidget spinner? These are the ones who are out ahead, and then everybody else is following. And not only that are they influencing their peers, other youth, but they're also influencing the mass market. So this group, really values some interesting things like mobility and experiences rather than stuff. They want their products to have many functions, to be adaptable and flexible, and kind of have light material usage. They want to access goods when they're needed, rental, storage, retrieval, take back, rather than owning all of them, so that they can stay light and mobile and that kind of thing. So what we're really interested in is understanding, do BC young frontrunners value flexibility, this market space, to such a high degree? And what is British Columbia and Canada's mass market potential for flexible stuff and the other market spaces? Or will we even see a 5th market space? How will they differ? This study was done in 2017, which is pre-COVID. I suspect we're going to see some new things cutting across these market spaces. We might see, when they did these studies, they didn't actually ask people about sustainable behaviors, but they found that sustainability cut across all 4 market spaces in different ways. I suspect we may see equity, EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusivity. It's my hypothesis, may be cutting across these market spaces today. As a result of the pandemic and the awareness it's raised amongst these front runners. So in short, here's a bunch of young front runners doing things in different, demonstrating different consumption behaviors and lifestyles. And we're excited about this because I think the really important thing is I think it can help companies de-risk their circular offerings and really understand what's in the hearts and minds of these early adopters and really kind of land their innovation strategy. And in doing so, be part of a cohort that can help them save time and money. And I think it's important because, 97% of innovation fails, and then you lump circular on top of that. And, you really got to have some strategic insights into it. So, yeah. So there's some contact information if either the Shift or the Frontrunner projects are ones that interest you. The front runner project is probably a little bit more geared toward medium-sized and large, who do kind of have that real kind of strategic kind of innovation function and capacity. If you're interested, although we are very interested in also creative ways to include and mobilize the results for SMEs, smaller and startups. If you're interested in the lighter living profiles, making sure that you can see that webinar, or maybe you see other activation opportunities, I'm going to suggest you reach out to Dagmar Timmer, who's with One Earth, as they're more of the lead on that one. And finally, I only hinted at it very briefly, but if your interest is around just circular recovery and transition, how do we create jobs, green and just jobs as we transition to a circular economy? There's tremendous untapped potential. And what are some of the innovations that are taking in, neat approaches to ensure affordability and accessibility for circular innovations? You can reach out to Alice Henry, who's with the Share Reuse Repair Initiative and is taking a lead position on that particular program. And various ways that you can follow us on social media and on our website. We're not super active on social media, but certainly do provide updates on our website, and we have the option to sign up for our newsletter as well.
Thank you for all that information, Rosemary. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And this is from a municipality perspective. What kind of things can we do to lead and encourage our residents to share, repair, reuse? How can we build this into an integral part of our village lifestyle?
That is an excellent question. I mean, I think it's worth looking at some of the municipalities who have really led in this regard. I look to York Region in Toronto, who has integrated sustainable behaviors, in particular share, reuse, and repair, into their waste management plan. I mean, it is a major focus of their waste management plan. And as a result, they have initiated and led and partnered various different roles that they've played to have a lending library of things, to have repair cafes, and they continue to kind of play that role, leading with policy and also leading with the types of offerings that allow their citizens access to these behaviors. You can also look towards other entities like Portland. They've been a leader for a long time. They have a program called Be Resourceful, PDX. It's a bit of a funky name, but basically they have an entire program that's focused around thoughtful consumption, share, reuse, repair. And they have a website that provides has a blog with tips around how you can do this at different major life moments, and lists of the innovators from the businesses, but also nonprofits and other organizations that provide goods and services. So you need to kind of make it visible. The city of Vancouver has done other things as well. They provided grants. They participate in some of the work that we do. And so I think it's just taking a look at some of the leaders and also thinking thoughtfully about the roles that cities can play. I think they can play low, medium, and high roles. And actually, if you look on our website, we have a report where we did a survey and have a whole variety of suggestions of strategies that municipalities can use to lead in this space, best practices, if you like. So that is on the resources page of our website. I think it's called How Cities and Universities Can Amplify Sharing, Reuse, and Repair.
That is a great answer. Thank you very much, Rosemary. I think that's about all we have time for today. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us about this. I really appreciate that. And thank you for all the attendees for attending this webinar, and hopefully we'll all see you at our conference in June, either in person or virtual.
Great. Thanks so much for having me here today, and looking forward to the conference.